New Oxford Modern English Book, Class 8, Poem 1. When I Heard the Learned Astronomer, written by Walt Whitman. Question answers, complete explanation in Hindi. Astronomer, a scientist who studies stars, moons, planets, and other objects in space. Learned, well educated, usually written as learned and pronounced with two syllable learn it. Here it is pronounced as one syllable to reflect an ordinary person's way of speaking. Lectured, to give a talk or presentation on a subject. Lecture room, in the 19th century, people often went to listen to talks by experts on a range of subjects. These were held in public rooms or in community halls. Mystical, having or inspiring awe or fascination. Proofs, evidences that a mathematical equation is true. Summary. The poem When I Heard the Learned Astronomer is written by Walt Whitman. The poet seems to tell the readers that although science is invaluable as a tool to help us to understand the complexity of the universe, the true way of understanding the nature is not scientific but intuitive and mystical, and that experiences life's marvel is the only real way to appreciate the wondrous beauty of nature and be fascinated by its mysteries. The poet talks about the time he is part of an audience listening to a learned astronomer deliver a lecture. The astronomer backs up his theories with a wealth of data, charts, and diagrams in order to appeal to human reason and logic, and it seems to work as the audience responds with much applause. However, the dry and abstract lecture makes the poet feel tired and sick, and he goes out of the claustrophobic confines of the lecture room in the mystical, moist night air. This simple act of being out with the nature rejuvenates schemes, and he seems to learn about the mystery, power, and the beauty of the universe. Then he would learn from figures and facts. Comprehension. Answer the following question. First, in the first half of the poem, where is the poet? Answer. In the first half of the poem, the poet is sitting in the lecture room. B. In the first half of the poem, who is the poet with and what is he doing? The poet is in the lecture room along with many other listeners, listening to a lecture delivered by a learned astronomer about stars. C. Which words or phrases shows that the astronomer is respected by the poet and the audience? Answer. The phrase like learned astronomer, much applause in the lecture room suggests that the astronomer is respected by the poet and the audience. What scientific tools and method does the astronomer use? The astronomer uses mathematical proofs, figures, charts, diagrams, along with measurement of the substantiate his point in the lecture. Next, in the second half of the poem, where is the poet? Answer. In the second half of the poem, the poet is outside the lecture room under the wide open sky. Under the wide open sky. F. In the second half of the poem, who is the poet with and what is he doing? Answer. In the second half of the poem, the poet is out with nature admiring its beauty, and being one with it. The poet here is drawing a contrast between the first half of the poem, where the author is amidst fellow students listening to a lecture about the stars and the universe, and the second half, where he himself goes outside and sees the nature for himself. G. What words and images in the first half of the poem are in contrast to the perfect silence in the final line? The phrases like lectured with much applause, become tired and sick, rising and gliding show the restlessness in the contrast to the one of that followed in the second half. Difficult question. What is the message of this poem? The poet here is trying to drive home the message that the first way to understand nature is not entirely the academic way or through meticulous calculations. It is imbibed properly in the truest sense in the intuitive and mystical ways. It is outside of the four walls, amidst the nature under starry night sky, one finds actual understanding. Annotate the first four lines of the poem. Hint. When I heard the learned astronomer, when the proofs, the figures were ranged in column before me, when I was shown the charts, diagrams to add, divide, and measure them, when I sitting heard the astronomer, where he lectured with much applause in the lecture room. Introduction. These lines are taken from the poem When I Heard the Learned Astronomer, composed by Walt Whitman. Central idea. In this poem, the poet is describing the difference between the theoretical knowledge and the practical knowledge, and also he compares the knowledge and emotions. Explanation. In the first half of the poem, the poet is telling about a lecture given by a learned astronomer about star and celestial bodies. The astronomer was very well versed and B substantiated his point using many proofs like mathematical proofs, figures, diagrams, charts, and everyone enjoyed the lecture. Next four lines. How soon, unaccountable, I become tired and sick. Till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself in the mystical moist night air, and from time to time looked up in perfect silence at the stars. Explanation. In the second half of the poem, the poet felt tired and sick. He felt suffocated and left the room. He himself wandered about and examined the mystical moist night air. The act of being out with nature makes the poet feel relaxed and experiences the power and beauty of nature. He learns much more than he would learn from figures and fact shown by the astronomer.